Welcome to Community Voices with your host, Tarence Lauchie. This radio roundtable features community, business, and religious leaders that discuss current events and topics that impact our urban community. If you would like to be a guest or if you have a suggested topic, contact the station today at 616-259-7342. Now, into the program.
Greetings, this is Tarence Lauchie, and you're listening to another edition of Community Voices here on 91.9 FM, The People's Choice. Excited to have another opportunity to serve the community by bringing news, information, and things that are happening in and around our listening community. The greater Grand Rapids area is on the move. We're in the thick of summer, but we have the opportunity to kind of slow down, take a look at what is available in the way of childcare. We have in the studio today Dr. Nkechi. We are so glad that you're here today. Thank you for agreeing to do this interview.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having ELNC be a part of your programming.
Well, you're not a stranger. I think I had the privilege of being able to interview you once before, and I think we had a panel discussion. We were talking about education and the impact on the African American community, as well as the population of people that may have some economic challenges. And we're talking a little bit about that today. So if you're just tuning in, you want to know a little bit more about what's happening in this area, there is progress. There is some accomplishments and achievements of which we can be proud of in our community. Dr. Nkechi, tell us about what's happening right now with ELNC. That's Early Learning Neighborhood Collaborative.
Yes, my favorite letters, ELNC. A lot is happening. You know, ELNC was created to make sure that vulnerable children in our community, especially the Black and brown children, have access to early learning opportunities. We found out years ago that our children in these days and age are still going to kindergarten already. If you're not ready for kindergarten, I don't know, you're not ready for school, you're not ready for life. So a lot is going on in terms of just fighting the same fight, trying to make sure that our children have childcare, if you call it. I prefer to call it early childhood center in their neighborhood or closer to them. I think there's just something that changes in a child's head when you have to pick them up from their neighborhood and take them someplace else to be educated.
Sure.
You know, they have to try to fit into that environment. But the message that you send into them that your own neighborhood is not good enough. It's up to you and I to make sure that every neighborhood where kids are coming are safe and good enough for them to be educated, cared for in that area, but not starting at age 3 and busing them to other neighborhood because there's no early childhood program in their community. That's just not good enough for me and my team.
I think that you're onto something that I think is turning back the hands of time. There was a time when busing was the order of the day, and the goal was to do desegregation. But we find polarization that takes place when, like you said, a child is taken out of their community, bust into another community to get an education that when they come back to their community, they can't relate to everyday life. The dream of ELNC is obviously unfolding. You started out many, many years ago. I think there was Head Start involved.
Well, Head Start is still our partner. That's a whole different programming. And we started because, it dates all of us. Dr. Bernard Taylor, the superintendent, then said, the children coming to us are not ready for kindergarten. That was a watershed moment really in our communities for us to start looking at what is going on, where they're going. If they're not ready, what's going on with them? So that's how we started. And we, ELNC, we still believe in the concept of little school. Child care center don't have to be so big that children don't even know who's coming in. It just got to be a little program, a classroom, 3 classrooms or 4 classrooms surrounded with quality programming for children and family. So we started to do that and begin to reverse that idea that children have to be bussed out. I still remember having a couple children attend one of our programs in our Southeast 6B Elementary over there saying, that's where daddy gets his haircut. And that sent
So
a
they were
chill.
able to identify, this is my community.
This is my community. That's where daddy gets his haircut. I don't know what else is so real and telling, you know what, I belong here. And the pride.
Yes.
That child used to say where my daddy gets his haircut. Just, reassured me that we're on the right path of just saying, okay, I'm not saying having big programs is not good and all that, but for now, let's focus on small programmings where our children can come in their neighborhood, be surrounded by who they love and all that. Then it's up to us and the neighborhood associations and the powers that be to make sure that that community is quality. And if you notice, our neighborhood associations are doing that. They're fighting the fight to make sure that there is no crime, the environment is clean and all that.
Well, we have had a lot of unrest, and over these last 2 years, 2.5, 3 years, from shootings to, police killings to just the upheaval. I think a staple in the community would be childhood development, early childhood education. Talk to us a little bit about that. We'll get into the conversation in a moment about what has happened to impact our community specifically, but let's go back to the vision and the dream of ELNC.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about that.
Early childhood education is my background. I really believe that to change our community and all really starting with the child, to set a child up for life, they have to have quality and culturally relevant early childhood education or early childhood opportunities. Because early childhood education is such a comprehensive field, people just think it's daycare. I drop my kids off and all that. No. That is that, and then some. There's parenting classes that goes around it. There is a play to learn where kids just come to play, to interact and not do all those kind of things. So I believe in that really because it sets the tone for children. We also know that the sheer amount of vocabulary children bring into kindergarten sets them up for life. Well, where they getting all those vocabulary? I know I have 5 children. When they were little, I wasn't home every day monitoring the vocabulary they're getting or reading or doing all this. I got to go to work and all that kind of thing. So it makes sense to put the child in a quality environment in their neighborhood that is culturally relevant so that they are learning and interacting, socializing. Yes. Because play is really how the child get to understand the world around them. And we use play-based activities to teach children what to expect. So early childhood education is so important. It gets the children prepared, but it also teaches them more than just getting ready for ABCs in kindergarten.
You mentioned an experience where one of the children said, that's the place my daddy gets his haircut.
Yeah.
What are some of the other moments that were definitive for you in carrying this? Because you've had a couple of locations.
Yes.
And you've landed in a space. We're going to talk about that space, and people could probably just now converge because you've got more space to do more programming. But give me another moment that was a definitive moment for you in what you're doing. This is a calling. Yeah,
it's a calling for me. That was one that really touched me and made me believe in the place-based work we're doing. Place-based meaning that activities need to happen in the place where the child is growing up and all those kind. And I remember one grandma, African-American grandma, saying, well, where are you? I've been looking for you because you had my child as a teacher, and now that my child has children, and I'm too grown. I'm telling you, I'm too grown to be running around with 3-year-old. You do what you do best with that. And I didn't even know that she remembered that I was a teacher. Generation. That's a second generation saying, that for me and all that. And one of the centers that we're trying to open coming in this fall, we had a little open house and the children came in and the child sat down and we came out and said, oh, that's where my church is, pointed down. It's like they know. And what that one said to me is that children are very smart. They're very observant. They're very curious, and they know what is going on around them. So us trying to pretend that they don't know, we're really fooling ourselves.
Right. It's an injustice for us to pretend as if there aren't good and bad issues that face our community.
Yeah. So getting a child tell me that's where my dad gets a haircut, pointing because now my school is across from that place.
Sure. A sense of security.
A sense of security. Yeah. I can walk in, and I'm telling you, the first day of school, that child came in with a big old backpack, bigger than him, walking in like, I've been here.
Wow.
And that does something to your brain. You see,
Sure.
removing a child from their environment and putting them someplace, it makes your brain want to kind of, you're looking around like, oh, this is unfamiliar.
Well, it's early institutionalization, and I think it's almost preparation for what could be next,
could be next.
for a child to be taken out of an environment that they feel safe and familiar in. Familiarity. It's village concept.
It's a village
Yeah,
concept.
the village concept, which we've talked about for years and years and years. So the village is wherever you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't just go and make a village because
Yeah.
you said, oh, here's some space, let's go plant a village.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't have early childhood development background. I have higher education background in doctoral work in education and leadership. But when people own their communities and when children start with the idea or the concept that I belong here, that coupled with individuals who've gone out, got an education to come back and to pour into that community. Talk about the grand opening of the new space that you're going to be going into.
So we have a brand new space that is going to be opening in Granville area, and it's going to really be exciting. It's going to be also a partner with ELNC. We sponsored this program. I don't know if you remember from our conversation last time, ELNC does not really run a child care or early childhood center. We partner with community-based organization to stay in their neighborhood and run that early childhood program. So we have a new program coming on in the Granville neighborhood, Granville corridor, and it's going to be called International Preschool of the Arts.
Wow.
And it's going to be an early childhood education dedicated to children up to 3 years of age. By the time they go to 4-year-old, then we put them in another site because that area needs that. It's going to start fall of 2022, and I am so excited and can hardly wait for that to start. But my spirit is also high because there's going to be a brand new center coming in the Boston Square neighborhood.
Yeah, that's two exciting things.
I know, fall of 2023, so I can hardly wait for that. But I need to come back and talk to you about the Boston Square one because that's going to be so huge.
Well, the Boston Square community is not too far from this location.
Yes.
We know a little bit about this
and you know what? It's about time. It's been about time. We've been talking about it. Boston Square Neighborhood Association been really pushing for it.
Yeah.
Amplify GR and IFF and I believe Rockford Construction.
Yeah.
Everybody been just, but the community been really pushing for that. You know, meetings after meetings, childcare is rated number one of what the things they want in this neighborhood. And I really want. When my kids were little, I had to drive past this neighborhood to go someplace else to put my kids because they didn't have that.
So that's your home community. They're very close to where you are.
Yeah.
You mentioned the international program. Let's go back to that. That's going to be in
the Granville neighborhood.
Yeah. So the international aspect of that is to teach multicultural language. Talk a little bit about the international school.
The international part of it is that Grand Rapids is really known for so many cultures.
Sure,
we
diversity.
may not, the diversity, we may not be showing it all the time, but it's there. If you look at even the history of Grand Rapids, you have that. The arts, we have all these different arts, the Grand Rapids Art Museum, Frederick Meyer Garden, Children's Museum, and all those kind of, but how do we get our children of color, vulnerable children, begin to embrace art in a holistic way and all that? So it's just a small way of beginning to introduce that to that concept. Yeah,
I think that's an awesome opportunity.
Yeah. I want to come back and talk to you with the director of that program to talk to you more about the International Preschool of the Art, just to let you know why we're going that route, to supporting the organization that is doing that anyway. ELNC would just be funding the program.
Sure. I'm sure that the station manager will love to set that up.
Yeah.
I want to give the website just in case somebody has to tune out or tune back in, but it's elncgr.org.
Yes.
There's quite a bit of information here on the site about what's happening and the evolution of this organization that partners with other early childhood development organizations to provide that quality in the communities in which the children live. Let's move over to Boston Square because it's right close to Oakdale. I know some people in the Oakdale community. Talk a little bit about Boston Square and what's coming there.
Boston Square program is coming, unfortunately 2023.
It takes time. Good things take time.
Good things takes time, but we are all like children at heart. If you tell a child Christmas is 5 months, 4 months, they're going to want to be like tomorrow, right?
Yes.
So it's coming, and it's going to be a program for 0 to 5 years of age. We're going to have infants. We're going to have toddler, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and then when they're ready to go to kindergarten, then we will beat them by because we know they would have been prepared and all that. It's going to be mixed income, and we're going to make sure that we have families that cannot afford will bring their kids. So it's going to be the highest need. And I believe everything, it haven't been solidified yet, but we're going to have a good number coming from this neighborhood. The 49507 have been left behind for longest time.
Sure.
And that is also the area that we are finding from our research we need early childhood the most. So there's a great number of amount of slot that will be dedicated to this neighborhood to make sure that you live here, but your child cannot even go to the program in your neighborhood. But because we're place-based, we're going to be able to
Let's
do
talk
that.
about that. I think the last time you were here, you had done some research, or you had been exposed to some research for this particular zip code, the 49507. Is that the correct?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. What were your findings? What did you find?
So in before ELNC started, I did a current reality research. Current reality research because in 2009, Dr. Bernard Taylor, in his state of school address said, hey, 83% of children coming to us are not ready for kindergarten. Well, then the thought you want to say is why? Why? If you look around helicopter view, you have all these child care center, quote unquote, child care centers around here, but why are the kids in this neighborhood going to select Grand Rapids Public School not ready? Now, mind you, when we talk about Grand Rapids Public School, we're not talking about all the whole school. And I'm not here to speak for the school, but there are some schools within our inner city that the kids were not attending or they're not doing well when they get to a kindergarten. That's according to Dr. Bernard. So looking at it, doing a current reality research. Why current reality research? My team and I couldn't use the 2009 census data because it was already 9 years old.
Sure.
Census comes every 10 years, right? And to wait for 2010, it was just, we needed to go, right? So we had to do a current reality research. What is our current reality? We partner with the Johnson Center to do neighborhood mapping of this whole area to see what is going on. Looking at 49503, 49504, 49506, 49507 have the highest concentration of poverty. 49507 had the least number of children attending child care center within that area. We're talking about, again, 2009 and 2010. Baxter, UMCH, they are full. They have children that look like you and I, but they were coming from Kentwood and they were coming from Wyoming. That's how it was set up.
But it was not servicing the children in the zip code
this
area.
neighborhood, in this zip code area and all that. Even I'm a professor at Aquinas College. Aquinas College had a program on the northwest side, but it didn't have children from that neighborhood. The Y, downtown, everybody that is coming downtown to work had access to childcare, but the children living in that neighborhood did not because they didn't have money to pay for it. So it's not so much blaming those sides. They had to survive. They had to pick the parents that applied and have the funding to pay for it and all that. So unintentionally, it kind of displaced the children that live in this neighborhood. It have followed this 49507 for a long time. Because of that, the 49507 children that live in that neighborhood always playing to catch up to center because until the child leaves that center, you can get in, right? And that's another thing that going on. And also during COVID, we were noticing that majority of the children in that area, the majority of family in that area were also exposed to COVID a little bit more. I can't talk about health because that's not
another research
that's
area.
That's a whole different area that we need to get into. But I can honestly say that 49507 have been left behind for a long time.
Well, the disparity is across the board, whether it's food desert, whether it's healthcare, whether it's disparity in economic, just economic status, home ownership, all of those issues is what's real in the community.
So if you pull all that together and then throw in early childhood, then you know where early childhood fits in. So we had to really think about what needs to happen to be able to begin to remedy that. So the whole opportunity that is coming to the 49507 Boston Square is so exciting, because it's not just going to be childcare, but I'm going to let the people leading that work to talk about it. But I know the early childhood education is going to use two-generation approach. We're going to provide opportunity for children. It's going to be a high-class, internationally rated programming coming in here, but also going to have opportunity for our families to be connected to the program, to be coached, to be mentored, to be supported, and then to be educated. We're not going to say, oh, let me tell you, you don't know how to raise your child. Let's tell you how to do that. But we start where you are and we work with. So that's why I'm so excited.
It sounds like a dream come true.
Oh my Lord. You don't know how much I remember, in a funny way telling the planners, if I don't see the sign coming up soon, I'm really going to bring all the ELNC 4-year-old to line up here and do our own little protesting.
You let the children do their protest.
Yeah. So when I saw the sign, I literally stopped my car, touched that sign, took a picture and say, oh, it's coming. Thank you, God, it's coming. So the community need to still continue to push for it, because that's what got us where we are. We need to keep on saying enough is enough. We need a quality early childhood program in this neighborhood. In short, in every neighborhood that we have all these black and brown children, because they have been the one that are being left behind, really, in the education
I'm excited for you as well. I'm at grandparenting stage now, so we'll look into that. We've got about 10 minutes left in this discussion. You said something off air, which I wanted to save and talk about, is impacting the children with realities.
Yes.
Reality-based learning, reality-based educational opportunities. We've had a whole host of negative things happen, from police shootings to us being in national news with Breonna Taylor, and during the George Floyd riots. Notice how the riots are associated with the name of an individual. How do we slice this up to teach those children that are 4 years old, 3 years old, asking questions? You know, my 3-year-old grandson came out of the room the other day, and my wife was asleep, and he says, "Poppy, Coco is snoring."
Snoring.
Yeah, well, he said snoring with no S. He just says snoring. And I was laughing, because how does a 3-year-old know what snoring is, other than his parents probably snore?
Yeah.
But then he thought it was funny. So he adapted to an experience and just shifted the whole moment for me. That was positive.
Yeah.
But there are negative things that has happened. We're going to have to tell him about Patrick, and we're going to have to tell him about Mr. Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all of those instances. What's your take on that?
A lot has happened in our community very negatively. We have good things, don't get me wrong, but we have a lot of negative things that are going on. I know that we continue to march. I know we continue to demand for justice. I know we continue to demand for retraining of police officers and all those. But one thing I know for sure is this. All of us grew up being taught that the police will protect you, that the police are the good on the side, and da-da-da. Now, sometimes things happen that it didn't pan out that way.
Correct.
But, I guess my concern or my little bit frustration is that our community, not just Grand Rapids, throughout the United States, we haven't had a good conversation about what do we tell our kids? How do we tell our kids when this happens? They see us marching.
Sure.
Yeah, you could turn on the TV right now, but tomorrow you're going to turn it. And the media do a good job of recycling it over and over again. Secondary trauma is a thing. So you see a child who's supposed to run to a police, but now the police is shooting somebody that look like me.
Yes.
What do you tell that child? When the schools were being closed because of we're anticipating the verdict of Patrick, and then that there may be riot.
Or even the children in Patrick's family.
Even the children, that is the one thing, Yeah. So I remember asking one of our parents, one of our staff member, and I say, please, what do you tell your son, a 10-year-old son, why the school is being closed for half a day? He said, I never thought about it. I just said, we have a half a day, I'm going to pick you up. But the child knows that we're closing the school because something happened. And I think sometimes we think we're protecting the children by hiding it from the children. Children are very perceptive. Children are very observant. They see what's going on. They see people marching. They see that it's somebody that look like me that is being shot. They see that the parents don't want to talk about it. Now, I'm not saying that.
They can sense the anguish, too, in our faces. I remember the day that Dr. Martin Luther King was shot. Yeah, that was.
And
I was
you
a
still
little,
remember?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
still remember. My mother was combing my sister's hair, and she screamed and cried as if it was a family relative.
Yeah.
And that affected me as a child.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know more and more and more about this Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but the instinct in your grandma or your mom or even what we do right now is to shield you. Oh, baby, that's okay.
Yeah.
But I heard you. You're my mom.
Right.
The best thing in my life was scream and cry.
And it's affecting you, so it's indirectly going to affect us.
Me.
Yeah.
So, having a conversation, what do we tell our children? How, I say, black man, how do you look at your black son every now and then and just say it happened? Where do you even do you say it happened? I don't have the right word, and I'm not saying that I'm expert on it. I'm just saying that we need to prepare our parents, our grandparents, and all that to say this is how we have the conversation, and but not to pretend. I think our community continue to pretend. We think that when we get out there and just have the march, that they're going to solve it. It's one of the way to deal with it. But when we start having this conversation, I want us to say, well, what about the children?
Yeah, I love the fact that you have a passion for this calling to reach a population of people. Some people look at children as secondary. They are a population of people.
And they are bosses. I remember telling the other day, I said to my kids, I'm going to be nice to you because one of these days you guys going to be poking me,
exactly.
doing
They'll be taking your blood
and all that.
They'll be taking your blood pressure, checking your temperature. They'll be, Dr. Nikichi, we want to make sure you're healthy.
Yeah, you're healthy and all that. Yeah.
So those kids want to grow up to be doctors and lawyers and judges and police officers and law enforcement personnel. How do we explain to them, what's been happening? The imbalance in the social injustice is just as important as teaching social justice. Yeah,
children are the best asset we have, any community have. We have to protect it. We have to know that they have right. I think, my biggest thing I'm thinking about really focusing on is children's right. We have to protect their right, and we make sure that we guard that and all that. So because they are the best asset for us, how do you take care of the thing that you value the most? Your house. Right. You go out, you mow the lawn, you clean it up, you do all those things.
You insure it.
You insure it. Yes. What insurance do we have with our children to protect them, to make sure they have a right to live in a safe and clean environment, to make sure that they have access to early learning opportunity, to make sure that they are loved, to make sure that we answer their questions honestly, but also protect them in case something else is coming up. So I think our community is doing great. I really want to say kudos to all the people that are fighting and pushing. We need you guys to push, your neighborhood associations, the teachers, the grandma, the grandpas. You have a voice, and we want you guys to continue to push for it. And all my fellow early childhood workers that are continue to do this work when we don't have the resources and things is getting tighter and tighter and all those kind of things. We do an amazing work, and especially in our community for children. And pushing for the state to do more.
Tell the audience, the listening audience, how they can reach you and how they can get a hold to somebody in the organization.
Well, our website is elncgr.org, and you can reach me or somebody within my staff using the info@elncgr.org.
Awesome. One more time, the dates for the new opening, the Granville, and then also the fall 2023.
Granville programming is starting fall 2022. So our school, usually we follow Grand Rapids Public School calendar. So we start programming after Labor Day. And then Boston Square, everybody, please, our community, put it in your prayers. Every night is starting fall 2023. We need prayers because we don't want anything to drill it.
That's right.
Supply chain have been crazy, so that when we request for things, it will go, and that God will bless the people doing this work, because it's going to be one of a kind programming that we hope will attract good things coming to this side of the neighborhood. We got it, and we are hoping to be able to show the world what we can do for our children.
Thank you so much for what you do in the community. Thank you for having a passion for not just the next generation, the now generation.
The now generation. I love how you say it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we always push, what's coming in the future, but those children are the influencers right now, and they make a difference. I can appreciate what it is that you're doing. Is there anything else you'd like to say in closing to our listening audience?
Well, I just want to say thank you for your diverse programming, because you and your managers continue to reach out to include early childhood in the community voices, and it matters to us. Every time I get a call that you want us to come here, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for all that you do.
I'm privileged to be a volunteer with the station and to be able to do this. It's a life calling for me to help make those links and those conversations happen. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Dr. Nkechi, and we are making sure that you reach out to the organization elncgr.org to get more information about the early learning opportunities available for our young people in the community. Again, you've been listening to Community Voices. I'm Tarence Lauchie, and thank you for tuning in to The People's Choice.
You've been listening to Community Voices with your host, Tarence Lauchie. Community Voices can be heard every Friday at 12 noon. This radio roundtable features community, business, and religious leaders that discuss current events and topics that impact our urban community. If you would like to be a guest, or if you have a suggested topic, contact the station today at 616-259-7342. Until next week, let your voice be heard in the community.